Another foundation of a cabin. So we've got the ruins of an actual plantation right here, undisturbed.
Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with another adventure into history, and today we are out in the woods of Talbot County, Georgia at the Jesse Carter Plantation and Cemetery site. I'm out here with Dan and Joy and Cecil, and this is the cemetery that Dan and Cecil found today. So where are we at, Dan?
Well, like you said, we're at the Jesse and Sarah Carter Cemetery here in Talbot County, Georgia. We're kind of northwest of Talbot, Georgia. This is the old Carter Plantation, and we're back way off the main highway on this place, and we wouldn't be able to be here today if it weren't for Cecil. Cecil was able to track this down. You want to tell us about how we got in here?
I've seen it on old maps, kind of had a general idea, and I just left a note on the gate, and Dan and I were out riding around today and just happened to see the hunters leaving and stopped them, and they let us in.
Like I said, this is the Jesse Carter Cemetery, and his children, J. Neil Carter, and another one of his sons over there, Little Barry Carter, are all buried here. And Joy knows a little bit more about them than I do. All I can say is that the Carters, and we've done other videos on the Story family and the Perryman family, all these families came together when they migrated here in the late 1820s and early 1830s from Warren County, Georgia. So we are all connected back in those counties long ago. Just about every family over there was related one way or another, even into the what was her maiden name, Neil, Neil and Gunby families, the Flemings families. They were all Duckworths. The Duckworths and the Storys and the Ansleys were all related back in those days. And when they came here, they came together. But Joy can fill us in on the rest of that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a neat family tree here. So this man, Jesse Carter, his father was named Kindred Carter. And the connection that will be of most interest here is, so this is the Jesse Carter Cemetery and home place too, right?
Yes.
And then there was another brother, Henry Carter, and that was our line, essentially, that gets us into the stories, because eventually Henry's son or grandson, William Story, married Sarah Carter Story, and she's the one who built my grandmother's house that we've videoed in the past. And then another brother was James Carter, and he is the third great-grandfather of President Jimmy Carter. So there's a Plains connection. And
before we get far along in looking at the other graves, I do want to say that for Talbot County, this is probably one of the last standing, what they used to call chicken coop graves. Have you heard other names, other descriptions of this type of grave shelter?
I've heard it called grave houses.
Grave houses. But anyway, this is one of the few that are standing. They used to be pretty common. There was even one in the Waverly Hall Cemetery once, but fire would get out and the woods would burn and these things would burn up as well. The grave over in there is 1899. So, the thing could have been built around 1900.
So I've only ever seen photos of these old grave houses before, and this one is it's absolutely amazing to look at it and see it standing out here in the woods, as it's been preserved for so long and had maintenance done on it and been kept up over the years. And we'll take a look at the grave that's inside. Dan, can you mind grabbing the door for me, sir?
I don't think the hinges will move any longer, but this slips out.
Gotcha.
And we'll put it back just like it came off.
So this grave has been very well protected. Now Cecil and Dan were already out here before we got here today. So did y'all have to clean this one off? Was it full of leaves?
Cecil swept it off.
Gotcha.
It had about 3 inches of dust and dirt and leaves on top of it.
But it looks really good. So this is the grave of Elizabeth, who is the wife of D.L. Ernest. She's on her grave as Mrs. D.L. Ernest, daughter of William L. and Susie A. Carter, died at Athens, Georgia, November 14th, 1899. Saved by grace through faith, which is the gift of God. So she died a pretty good distance and was brought back out here. And then this grave house is amazing. It had a beaded board ceiling here, which appears to be original to 1899 or somewhat right after that. And then these old beams may be original as well. I said this has the mortise and tenon there. We do think that some of this was redone recently, and you can see where the roof was redone with some pressure treated wood at some time. This is absolutely amazing. Do you know any kind of history about these grave houses?
From what I was told, they were originally constructed to keep livestock from, hogs and chickens and things from messing around the grave. Like hogs would root up into a place like this if it was soft dirt. And they were built just to protect the grave mainly. And graves in old cemeteries in Victorian days especially were considered an extension of the home. And this was like a little home away from home for this person. People had their different beliefs about cemeteries, but that's what I was told was the way that these originated was really to protect the grave.
Gotcha.
I think the roof was just an added feature of part of folks' beliefs back in those times.
Well, it's absolutely amazing, and to see one still standing out here. And it's certainly still doing its job, at least as of right now, of protecting this grave in here. There's a neat little step up into it as well. And then you can see where some relative modern work was done to it. It's got pressure treated wood here. So at some point, someone came and tried to do some refurbing to it. There's some pressure treated wood up in there as well. Give you a little peek inside. I can't really see what we're looking at, but you guys can. Absolutely amazing to see this again in the woods like this though. But that is definitely not the only grave out here. In fact, there's a row of graves right there. There's more there, but furthest out is this grave here, what appears to be kind of the boundary of the cemetery. There's an indention right there that looks like it may have been covered with brick at one time. This is this old handmade plantation era brick. It's made out of the red clay found around here. See all the grains from the sand in it. But this is a very large indention right here. So this is erected to the memory of Little Barry Carter, who was born in Warren County, Georgia, May 7th, 1807, and died in Talbot County, May 7th, on his birthday. Wow, 1847. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord. Wow, died on his birthday at 40 years old. 40 years old exactly. That's amazing. So there's more graves out through here. You can see indentions in the ground. In fact, there's one right there. There's an indention for a grave. And over here is what remains. Well, there's a grave right there. You can see just barely an indention. Right here is the remains of a fieldstone grave, probably of his child. It looks pretty small there, although I see some brick in there as well. So I don't know how much that may have been disturbed over the years. There's brick scattered all throughout here. Fieldstones as well. Back over here is the graves of two children that are unmarked. And this is Susie Walton Carter, wife of W.L. Carter, born July 12, 1847, and died March 13th, 1922. And here's William Carter. This is interesting. It says, to the memory of William L. Carter, the beloved companion of Susie A. Carter, born in Talbot County, Georgia, 26 September 1843, died at the same place, 1st May 1875, aged 31 years, 7 months, and 5 days. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Here rests a devoted husband and loving father. Sleep, loved one, till resurrection more, when thou will wake in newness of life. Our loss is his eternal gain. Wow. It's a great epitaphs on these. I believe that this is the namesake of the cemetery here, sacred to the memory of Jesse Carter, born in Warren County, Georgia, June 22nd, 1793. Died in Talbot County, Georgia, January 23rd, 1868. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord. This is his wife, Sarah, in memory of Sarah, wife of Jesse Carter, born December 28th, 1797, and died August 19th, 1855. Now she's got one of these old brick graves. That's that old plantation brick that's got, looks like cement over it. And this is her headstone and footstone that are actually laid on top of this box right here. It's interesting that she doesn't have a slab like all the others here. This is in memory of Mary, the beloved companion of J.N. Carter and daughter of Reverend Robert Fleming. She was born in Warren County, Georgia, June 27, 1824, and died in Talbotton, December 26, 1853. Asleep in Jesus, far from thee, thy kindred and their graves may be. Thy kindred and their graves may be, but mine is still a blessed sleep, from which none ever wake to weep. This is in memory of J. Neal Carter. That's who J.N. Carter was. Born in Warren County, December 12, 1817, and died March 31st, 1858. And there's a couple children buried right here. This is Mary Beulah, daughter of J.M. and M.S. Leonard. Died October 23rd, 1868, aged 3 years, 8 months, and 6 days. And Jesse Carter, son of J.M. and M.S. Leonard, died September 30th, 1868, aged 2 years, 8 months, and 9 days. He lost both of these children in 1868, September and October. And it's just amazing to look up here at this row of graves leading to the grave house there. And most of these are pre-Civil War, which is also super interesting. And here again, it's another view of this grave house up at the end of that row. It's just amazing to see that. It's still standing here after so long, and up until recently has had repairs and been kept maintained. So I wonder why he was buried so far off. I mean, we see a lot of graves out here that aren't marked though. There's an indention there, so there's 1, 2, just kind of counting what I can verify as a grave. So 1, 2, there's 3. And then 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, So at least 15, 16 graves out here that are visible, but I'm sure that there's more that I'm not seeing. We can see the cemetery was also kind of terraced off with a small rock wall here. See a cornerstone, then you can see the rock wall peeking out from the leaves right there.
Now this particular grave is Mary. Now she was the wife of J. Neal Carter. But you see it says that she was the daughter of Reverend Robert Fleming and was born in Warren County in 1824. Well, it doesn't say on here who her mother was, but her mother's name was Elizabeth Gunby. Elizabeth Gunby and Robert Fleming married in 1822, I think, in Columbia County, Georgia, which was right next to Warren County. Well, the Gunbys were related to my grandmother. My grandmother's mother was a Gunby. My daddy's middle name was Gunby, Edward Gunby Aiken. But anyway, Robert Fleming married Elizabeth Gunby. Elizabeth had several brothers and sisters. One of, now some folks might find this interesting. Elizabeth Gunby had a sister named Frances, and Frances married General James Bethune in Columbus, and they owned Blind Tom. Now, Blind Tom, that's a whole different story. If you want to know who Blind Tom was, just Google Blind Tom, Columbus, Georgia. Robert Fleming, of course, married Elizabeth Gunby. Elizabeth had another sister in addition to Frances. There was another one. Her name was Rachel. Rachel married Sylvester Jordan, and they moved to Columbus, and they became the parents of Gunby Jordan. And Gunby Jordan, of course, owned the railroad that came from Columbus out through Waverly Hall and Oak Mountain and went on to the McDonough, Georgia. That was called the Georgia Midland and Gulf Railroad. And he was the founder and president of that railroad. Gunby Jordan owned several. He was founder of a mill. He owned steamboats. You know, he was a big, big presence in Columbus, Georgia. And of course, the Gunby Jordan family still is. But that is a connection that a lot of people can make through this person here. Also, Mary, she and her husband, Robert Fleming Carter, Mary married J. Neal Carter. They had a son named Robert Fleming Carter. Robert Fleming Carter lived in Ellerslie, Georgia, down in Harris County. Robert Fleming Carter, he had a daughter named Miss Precious Swint, and all the Swints are descended from them. There's Robert Swint and all that bunch down there today that are descended from all these folks here. So it's really interesting, all the connections that you can make with the early settlers here that came here together from the counties in eastern part of Georgia. They were early settlers there, and then they were early settlers here. And the families, you know, still are part of our society here. They're still good citizens. A lot of these, you know, their families stayed here and were prosperous, such as the Jordans in Columbus, and the rest of them, you know, some of them moved on westward. But each one, you can go through here and see how they were descended on down to the lady that is buried in the shelter over there, or under the shelter.
All right, well, shall we take a look at Mr. Jesse Carter's home?
That's right. We'll go across the road to his old home place.
Awesome. That is a big old tree right there. You can tell no timber has been cut here in a long time. And we are right in front of where the Jesse Carter home place was. So we're gonna walk up here and take a look at some of these ruins. Actually, there's a brick from the home place right there. Cecil, you still have that piece? Cecil just found this in the road. Real old china piece. A bit of a rock terrace out in front of the house with this big old stone that was no doubt used as a mounting stone in front of the place, or you step out of your carriage onto that before going into the house. So let's go up here and see the old Jesse Carter place. You can see how long this house has been gone because these two trees are growing in the living room. This place had 4 fireplaces. And this is actually an amazing footprint of this house. You can see it was on level ground. And if you look close, you'll be able to see all the size of the house right here from this little terraced area. So this is the remains of one chimney. You can see this was actually a brick chimney in the front part of the house here. The chimneys on the back of the house were fieldstone chimneys. And you can actually still see the chimney right here. The chimney's still here, complete. It's just on the ground right there.
Yeah. You can still see the outline of the house. You can see the front corner was up there. Fireplace. This is probably the back corner of this room, and then another room on the back. So I'm thinking 4 on the main floor, first floor, maybe 2 rooms upstairs. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought.
Yeah, I think it was what they call the plantation plain type that was 2 up and 2 down, as they called it.
Gotcha.
With 2 shed rooms on the back.
Yeah.
On the ground floor. You can just see the outline of the whole house.
Absolutely.
How square it was. And you can imagine it was bigger than it looks here from just this footprint. But there's a shoe sole. Pretty run over.
How old is that?
It was over there where a rock had been turned over, and this was sticking out of the ground above it, or right beside it, I mean. But I don't know, I don't know. I can't tell if it's hard leather or hard rubber. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But
that's neat.
That's an old shoe sole.
I was just thinking, though, as we looked at this, how well preserved the outline of this house is.
Well, I don't think this land has ever been logged. This home site grew up after the house was gone, and I think it's just shaded out.
And I think you said earlier you don't know when this house was gone, but it's just been obviously gone for a real long time.
It has.
And I'm guessing that this would have been a real early settlement structure.
Possibly, but you know, it could have, with brick chimneys, it could have been rebuilt into something really nice. The Carter family looked like most of the older ones died out in the 1850s.
Yeah.
But this would have been their home. Did you see what's left of the old well?
I have not looked down there yet. And I was going to ask you initially, when I first called you, I was going to ask what this was. You see, it almost looked like a walkway or something up to the house.
Well, this little square foundation right here, I think, is for the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
That's what I think. Now, I'm not, positive, but that looks like the foundation for a kitchen that was off the back of the house. There was probably a dog trot porch between there, and probably a porch that went out to here. And there's other foundations out here as well.
Oh, really?
There's something out there. It could have been smokehouses. Did you see that on that rock?
I have not. Oh, wow. Well, tell us about this, Dan.
That is an old smoothing iron that is missing its handle.
Now, how old would something like this be?
Smoothing irons have been used ever since the 1700s on
Gotcha.
up until electricity came along.
So ain't no telling.
There's no telling.
So the remains of the well,
Yeah. So, not sure if somebody filled in the well or if the well caved in over the years, but I believe that's what that was.
either
Since it's
well
right
or
here.
flower pit maybe?
Well, being right here in the backyard, I don't know. I don't see evidence of a well anywhere else.
Yeah.
If it were a flower pit, I think it would be uniformly, shallow.
Gotcha.
But there's a sunk place right there
Right.
on this side that looks like it might have been filled in and has gone down. And the fact that it's caving in all around the edges of it too.
Yeah. He said there was more foundation out here.
Yeah, there's something down there.
Oh, look. I've got my own piece of, and this one's actually was stamped. If only we had more of it.
Yeah.
See? This is USA number 5.
Uh-huh.
Number 6. USA number 6. I bet someone can find out exactly what kind of piece that was too. Y'all have to comment down below. So it's always amazing when we're able to connect a cemetery and of course not only the stories of the people who are buried there, but also see where they lived or what's left of where they lived, and understand about what has come and gone from here. I see quite a scattering of.
It's quite a scattering of rock out here that could have been the foundation of a barn, a smokehouse. There's a pile of rock up by that tree.
What would traditionally have been around a plantation building or a plantation house?
Most definitely a smokehouse. Then possibly a dairy barn, storage houses for seed, a corn crib, other little places that they would have wanted to have guarded, but mainly seeds and corn.
And that would have been like right up around the house?
Yeah, that would have been close up to the house. And then the chicken pen, if they had chickens, of course everybody had chickens. Pigs would have been kept a little bit farther away because of the odor from the hog pen. And then servants' quarters. They had servants' quarters close by. Later they were called servants' quarters. In this case, they would have originally been slave quarters. And they would have had a couple of those up here close to the house. Then they would have had a whole neighborhood of them somewhere out away from here, I would imagine. But right here around the back of the house was just things that they needed to keep a close eye on, like food stuff. They would have kept canned goods. Of course, back then they canned things by packing food into clay jars, pottery jars, and they would pour grease on top. If they had wax, they would use that, but most of the time I've been told that they poured lard or grease on top of things like green beans.
Oh, wow.
And they would scoop that off. And the green beans on top, they say, would sometimes be rancid after a year or two, and they would scoop those off and throw them away, but all that in the bottom was still good.
And probably pre-seasoned with the lard.
Yeah. Yep. Cecil has found something.
Let's see. What'd you find, Mr. Cecil?
A Clorox bottle.
He said, I don't know. Does looks newer than the home site though.
It does. Did you see that?
What's that? Oh, that's a wagon axle or wagon hub. Look at that.
Buggy hub. Yeah.
So you were saying that the barn may have been right here.
Yeah.
The buggy may have rotted away with the barn.
Could have.
Or they were working on it. Now, what about like blacksmith shops and stuff like that? Would that have been further away from the house?
Yeah, anything that would have caused an odor, it would have been right out here, not too far away from the house, but it could have been down closer to where they kept their livestock, of course. A lot of folks kept their livestock up close to the house, and some didn't.
And this, I think, we've seen a couple of places like this, but this is one of the most, even though everything is gone, it's got artifacts on the ground, it's well preserved,
Yeah.
and the trash isn't modern. You know, there doesn't look like a lot of modern trash out here.
I haven't seen anything modern here.
It doesn't look like this place has been lived in for a really long time.
It hasn't.
Yeah.
I would imagine after the Carters died, the house probably became rental property. I think the land was probably still in the family up until, you know, not too many years back. Someone passed away, and I don't know who. I'll have to ask someone, but Cecil was telling me that this land was left to Auburn University, and you know, I don't remember who did that, but I'm sure that it was probably some of the family members that had owned it through the years.
Yeah. I was looking at this old road
I was about
bed.
to say that's a roadbed over there. Everywhere you look out here, there's little bricks and rocks and things all around, like maybe there could have been flower beds back here or gardens.
That's interesting. This one's more. There's definitely something right here. And we're kind of down below the terraced yard. You see the yard looks like it's kind of terraced there. And then of course, if you can make it out, you can see Cecil and Joy up there standing on the footprint of the house. And from my vantage point here, I don't know how well it'll show up on camera, but from my vantage point here, it just shows up amazing as the footprint left behind by this house.
There's another pile of rock out there.
Oh, sure enough.
Oh, look way down yonder.
What is it?
There's a chimney or something down there.
Oh, sure enough. I was gonna ask you too if you thought this might have been a roadbed.
I believe it is.
So we are, just for reference sake, the house is up there. You might be able to see Cecil in his orange vest. We just looked at that rock pile, the original roadbed, and then it looks like there's another roadbed right here. And Dan had just pointed out the little rock pile right there.
I believe that may have been a cabin down here. And that's the fireplace for it. And there's another one over here. Oh yeah.
Yep, sure enough. It's another home site number 2 here. And this could have been a like a slave cabin.
This could have been a slave cabin, and then on up until after emancipation, it could have been, you know, a home of someone who lived here and sharecropped, or a tenant farmer or something.
Yeah. Definitely a home site because it's got the telltale daffodils.
I see crepe myrtles. See the crepe myrtles?
I don't. Where are they at?
Right
Oh,
there.
sure enough, right there.
Crepe myrtles,
Yeah.
old-fashioned daffodil bud flowers.
And then there's the chimney. Or the foundation for the chimney, at least. What kind of, I guess this is just the regular fieldstone that's been broken up. See the grains in it. You ever noticed this before, Dan?
Yeah, that's the grain in the rock. Those rocks could be split. Look, there's a spring right down there.
Oh yeah, sure enough.
I bet they had a box built around that, and that's where they got water.
And look right there too. There's another little smoothed off area.
Yeah.
And we've got another one of these trifoliate oranges. The old mock orange.
Another one of those.
I just immediately associate these with old plantations, see them at
Yeah.
so many. Not a common plant to find today.
Here's a spring right there. See it?
I do. Right down there. And then it goes back uphill.
Could you tell where it comes out of the ground?
Looks like right up there.
Right there. That probably had a box built around it once. It's filled in.
We're on the other side of the spring. And saw a neat little square dugout over here that's obviously not natural. Right here, Dan says they might have had this as a place for washing clothes or something like that. And then what looks like another dugout area right here.
This is downstream from the head of the spring. This area right here is dug out. That could have been for anything. It could have been for washing clothes. It could have been for cooking syrup or something down here. Or it could have been for the hogs.
Yeah.
That may have been just a hole that they dug out for them to cool off in.
And it looks like as we climb up this hill, this is another home site, I believe, right here. Possibly. Is this, no, there's brick in there.
That's another fallen chimney, I believe.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, it's got brick in it.
Yeah.
That's another foundation of a cabin. So we've got the ruins of an actual plantation right here,
Yeah.
undisturbed. You can look at the size of the hardwoods here on this and see that the timber companies have not gotten a hold of this and destroyed all the evidence of the old settlement buildings.
This is really amazing because a lot of times the ruins that we see, even at the state of being in ruin, are limited to, you know, may see the big main plantation house, but outbuildings are frequently, any sign of them is long gone. But this one's relatively complete. All right, so we are back up here at the main old plantation house, but we could not leave without getting some video of these beautiful old bulb flowers. Dan called them silver bells, growing here in the front yard. Well, they've been growing for a very, very long time. And also more daffodils. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video of the Carter Cemetery and the old Carter home place. So big shout out for Cecil and Dan for finding this place and inviting us out here. You guys are awesome. And
Cecil.
Yeah, Cecil. Grave finder extraordinaire. You know he's a professional because he brings a brush, and he'd already brushed the graves off by the time we got here. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.